the unsung hero of the school. In a bustling city, tucked away in a quiet neighborhood, there was an old elementary school. It wasn't the most modern or well-funded, but it was a place filled with the laughter of children, the passion of teachers, and the dedication of one man who went largely unnoticed. Mr. Joe, the school janitor. Mr. Joe was in his late 60s, with a kind face, etched with wrinkles, and hands calloused from decades of hard work. Every morning, before the sun rose, he would arrive at the school, unlocking doors, cleaning classrooms, and preparing the building for another day of learning. To most, he was just the janitor. But to those who knew him, he was much more than that. Mr. Joe had a way of noticing things others didn't. He saw the shy boy who always sat alone at lunch, the girl who struggled with her math homework, and the teacher who stayed late grading papers. He never intruded, but he always found small ways to help. One morning, as he swept the hallway, he noticed a boy named Liam sitting on the steps, looking upset. Liam was often teased for wearing the same worn-out shoes every day. Without saying a word, Mr. Joe sat down beside him and offered a small smile. "Do you know what makes shoes special?" he asked. Liam shook his head. "It's not how new they are or what brand they are. It's the miles they've traveled and the stories they tell. Your shoes must have some incredible stories." Liam's face lit up, and for the first time, he smiled. The next day, a new pair of shoes appeared in Liam's locker, along with a note: "Keep walking, kid. The world needs your story." Mr. Joe's kindness extended to everyone. When a teacher mentioned she couldn't afford supplies for her classroom, Mr. Joe found a way to deliver a box of pencils, notebooks, and markers anonymously. When the school garden wilted from neglect, he spent his weekends planting flowers, saying it was important for kids to see something beautiful every day. But his most profound impact came one winter. A fierce storm had left the city blanketed in snow, and many families struggled to stay warm. Mr. Joe noticed a group of children huddling together near the radiator in the cafeteria. The next day, he brought in bags of warm coats, scarves, and gloves, quietly placing them in the lost and found bin. When the principal asked him about it, he simply shrugged and said, "I just did what needed to be done." One day, a young teacher named Ms. Harper stayed late to finish decorating her classroom. She was new to the school and feeling overwhelmed. Mr. Joe noticed her struggling to hang a poster and offered to help. As they worked, she asked, "Mr. Joe, why do you care so much? You go above and beyond for everyone here." He paused, his eyes distant for a moment, and said, "When I was a kid, I had a teacher who believed in me when no one else did. I was just a poor boy with no direction, but she saw something in me. She changed my life. I figure if I can do even a little of that for someone else, it's worth it." Ms. Harper never forgot those words. Years passed, and Mr. Joe retired. The school held a small celebration for him, with students and teachers sharing stories of how he had touched their lives. Liam, now a high school senior, stood up and said, "Mr. Joe, you didn't just give me shoes, you gave me confidence. Because of you, I am not afraid to walk my own path." Harper, now an experienced teacher, added, "You reminded me why I became a teacher, to make a difference, just like you." After his retirement, the school started a tradition called Joe's Day. Every year, students and staff performed acts of kindness in his honor, from volunteering at shelters to planting flowers in the school garden. Mr. Joe lived out the rest of his days quietly, but his legacy continued to grow. The children he had helped went on to become teachers, doctors, and community leaders. They carried his lessons of kindness and compassion with them, spreading his influence far beyond the school. One day, Liam, now an adult, visited Mr. Joe with a pair of shoes in hand. "These are for you," he said. "They've walked a lot of miles, and they have some incredible stories to tell, just like you taught me." Mr. Joe smiled, his heart full. "Not all heroes wear capes. Some carry brooms and wear work boots." Mr. Joe's story reminds us that it's the small, quiet acts of kindness that often have the greatest impact. You don't have to be famous or powerful to change the world. Sometimes, all it takes is noticing the people around you, lending a helping hand, and believing in the power of compassion. And so, the school janitor, who many overlooked, became the hero no one could forget.